The next boar coming out is his litter mate. This is Whiz Kid. Whiz Kid, again, is an old school law and order. And just a brief word about this litter. There were 3 boars in the litter, and I think there were 8 or 9 gilts in the litter. Days are retaining 3 or 4 of the gilts. They sold the rest of the gilts, and we bought all 3 of the boars to make sure we got the right one. And so this is Whiz Kid. He's priced the same as First in Class, a little bit different than his litter mate. There's similarities, but yet there's some differences.
Yesterday we walked through those things, and I felt like this was the breeding hog of the trio. That one's a unique kind of a guy in terms of his boldness, his stoutness, the shape of his skull, and the width and the brim of his nose. And I was hard on this one early. I mean, I always liked the boar just went out. I thought that one was good built and athletic. And when this one kind of gets settled down, gets his head pulled up, and we realized Caleb hasn't spent much time this summer breaking this boar to look like a show barrow, which is okay with me. But I think this is the stout one, the bold one, the big ribbed one. And again, on the red thing, the longer I look at those, we see those sows really starting to get frail underneath. We see those gilts get really tight in their spine. They don't want to get pliable enough. So there's a couple options here to kind of fix that for you. This one here, again, I don't think you have to explain how stout and three-dimensional he is. And his rear legs are very secure. His pasterns are really good. And again, that's a problem we see across the big population of them. So I like this guy extremely well. Again, I think as he matures, he's going to grow into an impressive kind of a big old boar. And I know here personally at Doc's, this is the boar I probably see the most use because those sows are great built, tall shouldered, good looking, need power, need density. That guy can do that. So there's a couple options. I think both of them are great options for your individual need. Again, I think this is the bold, stout, three-dimensional big form. And for a boar that's 5.5 months old, that's real honest bone. That's not 3-year-old boar coming back and look heavy boned all of a sudden. That's a 5.5 old one that's absolutely got it working today. So dig in there again for stoutness and bone and fullness. He'll fix you there.
Whiz Kid. There's a third brother, Teacher's Pet. He's a composite between the 2 boars. He is very, he fits the mold. We moved these boars this afternoon from Logan's house down the road. And we don't know what's going on with Teacher's Pet right now, but he's just not at his best in terms of making that move and transition. So if you're interested in him, certainly we can talk about him, and his better days are ahead, and we're going to use him here as well. Next boar in our Duroc lineup is Lawyer. Lawyer is a law and order times Ham-a-lot. He's bred by Roger Bentley, local legend in the Duroc breed, sitting right over here on the first row. And Roger, I don't know if it's a good thing if you get referred to as a legend or not. It may mean you're just old. I don't know. That just means you're old. But you all know Roger. Roger bred this boar. And I'll be right up front with you. This boar's semen quality is hit and miss. And we will never send out bad semen. In fact, we have had people get really downright ugly with us on the telephone because we tell them the semen's just not good enough. And they'll say, well, is there alive? Yes, it's alive, but it's not good enough. Now, when his semen's good, it's good, and lately it's been good, or he would not be out here. So right now his semen is good. He has not been bred to a tremendous number of sows because of the semen issue. However, the sows he's been bred to, when he hits, he hits. This is a line-bred boar. Again, back to the law and order. Tom's breeding at Stony Creek all those years. This boar sires, and he sires in a big way. This is Lawyer. The last Duroc boar we're bringing in is Stick This. Stick This was bred by Brandon Stickler. If you've been following the Sticklers lately, you know that they have got their act together and they are doing extremely well in their breeding operation. Stick This is a lead-off times a Red Rock. And I guess the big thing about Stick This that caused us to buy him was his mommy. He's out of a $15,000 sow from Thompson Brothers. That sow has generated, continues to generate to this day. Stick This has generated. He sired the champion at Wisconsin. He sired the champion guild at Austin. He has sired numerous county fair and state fair winners. His litter mates were state fair champion bearers themselves. This boar is the real deal. We have bred the farm to this boar, and frankly are not going to be able to use him much this fall because we have kept all daughters out of Stick This. Our sow herd is built on this boar, and that's why we're excited about those young boars that we showed you, and Lawyer, when we can use him to come back on Stick This daughters. This is a good Duroc boar that I would not hesitate to use in a minute, and we will use him all we can on every sow that we have that's not out of him. We will continue to use him where we can, but his daughters have essentially replaced our sow herd. So this is Stick This.
Real quick on this one, and it's hard to look at old red boars. You know, they get kind of gnarly and they get kind of big and stout. And the thing that to remember about this one is this is one of the very few kind of two-way kind of red boars you can use. There was a bear this summer that Doc's grandson showed to Columbus, was second up here on Junior Day, and I would argue that thing probably needs to go a little higher, but that bear is still, for the day, I mean, he's almost timeless in the way he makes them. That bears are still good looking, they're still neat necked, they're still big chested, they're still solid when you get behind them and drive them. And the nice thing is, in that pen that bear was in, 2 pens down was his littermate sisters, and they would just knock you over. So very few times do you find one that's got a usable kind of a skeleton that can kind of set and go off both ends and give you some added value of look and width and power and dimension without messing them up. So if you've got red sows, you want to kind of bring them back and do those things, but still add some look and some design and some build, that guy can do it for you. And again, most of them are, like Lawyer, is just going to make sows. I mean, historically, the sows have been really good. This one can kind of do both things. I think when you put him on sows that have a little more shape and dimension, they make better barrows. When you bring him to one that just needs some more elevation, some look, well, he'll do that for you. So pay attention to that. I don't know how many red sows you've got. It's hard to find good red boars that'll generate and do a good job. Just because he's older doesn't mean he's not good. It just means he's been around long enough to prove himself. So dig in there again on that one for one. If you kind of got to go both ways with one, he will absolutely do that.
Yeah, Scott just asked me, Kyle Banks and Stephanie have been good to help us, and I can't, I'm going to miss people, but Kyle and Stephanie have been just really crucial here. And Kyle raised a Stick This bear that drove last year, and I don't know how many times that bear won. How many times that bear win? How many? 13. 13 champions out of that Stick This bear. So Stick This is certainly one to consider. Okay, we were excited about young boars. We're excited about this boar. We're going to shift gears here in a big way. This is Fast Lane. Fast Lane is a Yorkshire boar from George Watson. He's out of Passon Lane, out of a gain control sow. Passon Lane's a boar that wasn't here long. Randy Shipley bought Passon Lane, was able to use him for one season, or not even one season, just one breeding, and had sows bred. And I talked to Randy, and Randy said, hey, we're keeping every daughter, and we got 3 sons on feed just out of a handful of litters. George bred one of his elite sows to Passing Lane, and this was the litter. George had been telling us about this boar. He was feeding him for the Indiana State Fair. Tom had been down, Caleb had been down, and make long story short, we were able to get him bought, and thrilled to do it. George was going to be here tonight, but had something come up that he had to go to, so was not able to come. This boar is another young boar. This boar is just 5 months old. He has not had his 6-month birthday yet. We are excited about this boar. We plan on using him just as heavy as we can here. For where Yorkshires are and where Yorkshires are going, we like this guy, and we like where he's taking us. He's priced at $100 a dose. This is Fast Lane.
I think we're going to see 3 York boars tonight. We're going to show all 3 of them. This is the combination boar to me. And the neat thing about him is, whenever you go to Watson's, and again, I'm always hard on everything in the world because those hogs have historically not had enough look to make barrows in my mind. And there's so much good and great things everywhere else, but they just didn't have enough look through their front end. This guy does that. George has kind of opened the books up, so to speak, to kind of experiment with some new stuff and some different stuff, but still maintain the great things that the Watson hogs do. And this one's kind of an anomaly for me compared to most Yorkshires. I sit there there and watch the Yorkshire Bears at Columbus. And Bob, we're not fortunate enough to just get to show white ones as Yorkshires. We have to actually give them a pedigree, which is makes it a little more difficult than some places in the world. So as I sat and watched those Yorkshire Bears, and we had some on feed too that you just can't get their ham loin right. You can't get them to blend right. They just don't have enough balance from the side. And then when you get them that way, they're too narrow and too flat. This guy is not. I mean, that guy is growing and growing hard, and he's gained, I bet he's gained 75 pounds since he's been here in the last 3 weeks. And for him to maintain that look from the side and that kind of a build out of his ham loin and right into his hip and hind leg, and still maintain some shape and muscle and dimension, and do that in a really comfortable, really good pasturing kind of a package is hard to do in the Yorkshire breed. And I encourage you to kind of get close to that one or look at him afterwards, because you don't appreciate just how much hog is there to get right on top of him, because that is a big rib, big bodied, three-dimensional boar that's 5 months old that is flat, putting it on the days and continuing to grow and doing it in a very secure and safe package. So a lot of those Yorkshire sows running around that are flat-footed, that are too one-dimensional, that are too wrong from the side in terms of their build and the way they're tied together, he'll fix that. He's a little shorter-headed. I'd watch him there. I'd protect him from the center of his blade to his earlobe is pretty long. I mean, he's a long-fronted boar that's a little stouter face. So if that's something you want to watch, I guess you call Steve Cobb and ask him how that's worked out for him the last 25 years, because all those have kind of looked that way. So I like this Yorkshire boar, and again, I didn't know how much I'd like him. I'm really intrigued by him. I think that thing's got a place, and he can fix a lot of Yorkshires and those problems we all fight each and every summer. He can do those things for you.
Fast lane. Next board coming out is Face the Facts. Face the Facts is bred by Fred and Heath McNeil. I know Heath's here. I don't know if Fred's here, but Heath and his dad are doing a great job breeding hogs. And last year they bred the grand champion Yorkshire Bear at the Ohio State Fair, and I heard about the littermate boar that they had at home, and we were able to work with Heath and get him in here. Heath's been a great customer and a great friend, and we were thrilled to get this boar. Now, we didn't get him in until late last year. In fact, he came on the day of the preview and walked out of the trailer and walked in this ring. He is a big country times Dixie. And this boar is unique and intriguing when you study him. And if you need to do some things with your Yorkshire sows, he's one that can do that if you need to. He is priced at $50 a dose. He makes a lot of semen, high quality semen, and we'd like to see him get into some sows. This is Face the Facts.
One of my more proud moments is when I went down to Heath and we kind of dug this guy out and watched him kind of grow up. And he is unique. That boar is unique. He's a little different than his brother was. His brother was a little more three-dimensional, a little stouter, a little bolder off both ends. This was the upright, shouldered, tall-fronted one that didn't have as much go when you got behind him when they were little. But I think that sow is really, really good that he's out of. And, of course, the big country stuff at Brock's has been really good and really solid. And I think sows built like him will be important. There again, in your crossbred programs, if your sows are too small and too mature too early, that guy is very immature. His head reads immature. He's got a real neat look through his front end. His jawline's about as good as you want to get one. And if you can make your sows look that way, I would encourage you to do that. He's square behind. He's absolutely an athlete. His angles are set in just about perfect, and his head and neck and blade is just about as unique as you can get. So again, jack him up, make him bigger off both ends, give him some flexibility. I'd take blue sows look like that guy every day of the week and probably twice on Sundays. So don't forget about him. He's priced right. He's bred really well. Comes out of an incredible program that's getting rolling down there and out of a really good sow. So that is Face the Facts.
Our last Duroc boar is Man of Steel. Yorkshire boar? Oh, I said Duroc. Guys, it's been a long week. Last Yorkshire boar is Man of Steel. He's a mega man times an attraction. He's bred by Hofschulte. You may remember the Hofschulte boars of last year. I guess the story on this one that just intrigued us, he was at the Summer Type Conference last year, and this boar's hip and hind leg was like none other. So stout featured and so good. He just intrigued us in so many ways. The mother of this boar, Hofschulde's run an ad, I think, in the last Seed Stock Edge. Frankly, I've not got to look at the latest Seed Stock Edge. It may still be a similar ad. But the mother of this boar has produced like 10 boars that are in boar studs producing. I talked to the Hofschuldes at Louisville this year. They specifically stopped me to talk to me about this boar. They feel like this boar may be the very best one out of that sow, which really flattered me and impressed me from the standpoint that they thought that much of this boar. They think he is just a true breeding generator. The sows that we've bred to him and the pigs we have been off the charts. We have gilts that we're just ecstatic about bringing in. This is Man of Steel. He is priced $100 a dose.
This is another boar here that hit me really hard as far as talking about a true breeding hog that can make barrows, that can make breeding stock. This Yorkshire boar has just stout. He's stout boned. He's up on his pasterns to have that much bone, I think, and he's opened up from front to rear. Love the herd boar head that he has on him, but the extension that he has up through his front end, really shapely, and his top and comes out of his blade, extremely good, tremendous hip. As Scott said there, he was one of the sounder Yorkshire boars up there at the conference that year, and this one here just hits me really good. No holes barred here. I think this one here got that generating look. I think you just use him on Yorkshire hogs, make them better all day long, make Yorkshire barrows. It's so hard to turn in the show ring.
Man of Steel. Next boar coming in is Battleship. Battleship is our only Berkshire boar, and I'll tell you right up front, Battleship's got an attitude. If you see Caleb coming out of the ring, catch him as he comes over the fence. This boar is a boardwalk times Speak Now, bred by Shipley's. He's $50 a dose. I see the Dalton standing over there. Daryl sent me a picture of a Berkshire gilt that shows down at Gallia County, raised by the Daltons. It was the champion gilt overall in that breeding show, from what I understand. It was a Battleship daughter. We're really excited about this boar. We only have a handful of Berkshire sows. He sires the way he looks. This is Battleship. He's $50 a dose.
There's a lot of good Berkshire boars running around, and a lot of them that have got a lot of problems too. And to me, this is the most middle of the road one that's still got look and got some explosion up front and got some jawline and looks like he can get out and sire barrows. And that's essentially what our biggest goal is in this part of the world with Berkshires, is to make those barrows that can go to wherever and be competitive. But the nice thing is, like we talked about the red boar, when you get him on the right sow, the gilts are pretty impressive out of him. His hip and hind legs really good. That thing last year was really cracked open on both ends and had a real neat build to him. The barrows this summer look that way, and I think this gilt that was at Gallia, that's a pretty nice little pig show down there, if any of you have ever heard of it. That one must have been really good. I think they've been easy to sell. They're real shapely as babies. They get ready in 5 or 6 weeks and start to get where you can get those things sold, and that's always important too. But again, I think one that can fix a lot of feet and leg problems, one that's again kind of center of the road in terms of his build. He's not too far in or out. He's one that's still got look and design. He's going to sire lots of shape up high. He'll give you barrow muscle when you get in behind him. I think that's a boar that a lot of you, if you've got Berkshire sows, can kind of tie into again and still make those things better. Even though he's not brand new, that one's still got a lot of good in him.
This is Battleship.